Chakshur militam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Devam Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskacha Dashatarane. So the verse here. Now, this verse of Bhagavad Gita is a secret to understanding the appearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Thakur and also Srila Prabhupada. And it's if Krishna 5,000 years ago predicted the appearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. How Prabhupada connects Bhagavad Gita with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. Ata va yoginam eva kule bhavati dimatram etat hi durlabhataram loke janma yat idrisham atava yoginam eva kule bhavati dimatam etadri durlabhataram loke janma yat idrisham Atava yoginam eva kule bhavati dimatam etadri dulabhataram loke janma yaridrisham. Go ahead. Atava yoginam eva Is that Bhanu Bhatta?
It is Bhanu Bhatta.
My God.
We captured him. He's staying here now.
Wow.
He's a prisoner.
Very good. Hare Krishna.
In charge of 24-hour kirtan, you'll be in charge of a 24-hour kirtan program. So
Wonderful.
So he's up in LA, and so let's get his blessings and came here. He's going to stay here with us.
Hare
Oops. Atava, or Yoginam, of learned transcendentalists. Eva, certainly. Kule, in the family. Bhavati, takes birth. Dhimatam, of those who are endowed with great wisdom. Etat, this. He, certainly. Durlabhataram, very rare. Loke, in this world. Janma, birth. Yat, that which. Idrisham, like this. Translation. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. So, the verse is about Janma, birth, appearance. I'll read it again. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. Purport. Birth in a family of yogis or transcendentalists, those with great wisdom, is praised herein, because the child born in such a family receives a spiritual impetus from the very beginning of his life. It is especially the case in the Acharya or Goswami families. Such families are very learned and devoted by tradition and training, and thus they become spiritual masters. In India, there are many such Acharya families, but they have now degenerated due to insufficient education and training. By the grace of the Lord, there are still families that foster transcendentalists generation after generation. It is certainly very fortunate to take birth in such families. Fortunately, both our spiritual master, Om Vishnu Pad Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj, and our humble self had the opportunity to take birth in such families by the grace of the Lord. And both of us were trained in the devotional service of the Lord from the very beginning of our lives. Later on, we met by the order of the transcendental system. Hare Krishna. So I'm reading Bhakti Vikas Swami has written a very nice book on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. He's done years of research. It tells you everything. Or maybe I should wait. This is a lecture Prabhupada gave on the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Goswami in Atlanta in 1975. Today is the most auspicious day. 101 years ago, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, he appeared on this day. So, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is Gora Shakti. Gora Shakti means empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted his mission to be broadcast. Priti Viti Ache Yata Nagaradi Gram Sarvatra Pachara Haibe Moranam. Priti Viti, all over the world, as many towns and villages are there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted his mission will spread. This prediction was made by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally 500 years ago. What evidence do we have that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta was Gora Shakti, is Gora Shakti? You know, from the life of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta? Anybody know? Okay, we'll read it. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada appeared in this world at 3:30 p.m. on February 6, 1874, the 5th day of the dark lunar fortnight in the month of Govinda of the Gaudiya Vaishnava calendar, according to the Bengali month of Magh. He appeared in Puri, the site of the famous temple of Lord Jagannath, and thus one of the holiest places in India, where Lord Chaitanya had resided for 18 years, absorbed in the highest ecstasies of Krishna consciousness. Now, I don't know who, but someone found a verse from the Padma Purana which also predicts the appearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. The verse is Sri Brahma Rudra Sanaka Vaishnava Kshiti Pavana Chatvaras Te Kalo Bhavya He Utkale Purushottamat. The translation is, in Kali Yuga, the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, which are purifiers of the earth, will appear in Purushottam Kshetra. What's Purushottam Kshetra? In Utkala. What's Utkala? So this very specific verse in Padma Purana he appeared in his parents' rented home, which continually reverberated with Sankirtan. that house is, you know, on the Grand Road. And now there's a Gaudiya Math. The Gaudiya Math, they got that house and they converted the place into a temple. Very nice temple, right on the Grand Road. Not far from Jagannath Mandir. Now, at the child's birth, the umbilical cord was wrapped around his body like a upavita. Upavitra, I think upavitra, right? Leaving a permanent mark. So this is very usual when they were pulling the infant out of the womb of the mother. His umbilical cord got wrapped around his neck and across his body, and that it left a mark, a permanent mark on his body. Which he had, you know, even when he grew up, and very unusual. So the father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had resuscitated Gaudiya Vaishnavism from 3 centuries of gloom, during which Gaudiya Vaishnavism had practically become superficial and removed from the genuine process of scriptural regulations. You all know how things degenerated. Thus, in popular parlance, the designation Vaishnava had come to denote ignorance and dissoluteness. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by his activities, saved the sampradaya. He uncovered, rejuvenated, propagated, and defended the authentic teachings and practices of Sri Chaitanya. He wrote, "The Dharma preached by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is universal and not exclusive. The principle of Kirtan as the future church of the world invites all classes of men without distinction of caste or clan to the highest cultivation of the spirit. This church, it appears, will spread worldwide and replace all sectarian churches, which exclude outsiders from the precincts of the mosque, church, or temple." Very soon, the unparalleled path of Harinam Sankirtan will be propagated all over the planet. Oh, for that day when the fortunate English, French, any French here? Russian, any Russian here? Only one? I thought there were so many. Oh, the Russians are there. Prussian? No, Prussian. Prussian is like German. German, Polish. Any German here? Where's Rohini? Well, he's Swiss, isn't he? Huh? And American. You're lucky to be here. Hare Krishna, yeah. The fortunate English, French, Russian, Prussian, and American people will take up banners, mridungas, and kartals and perform kirtan through their streets and towns. When will that day come? Oh, for the day when the Western fair-skinned men from one side, while chanting Jai Sachinandan Ki Jai, will extend their arms, and embracing the devotees of our country coming from another side, treat us with brotherly feelings. When will that day be? On such a day, they will say, our dear Aryan brothers, we have taken shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, who is the ocean of transcendental love. Kindly embrace us. When will that day come? That day will witness the holy transcendental Vaishnava Prema to be the only Dharma, and like rivers meeting the ocean, all narrow creeds will mix with the unlimited Vaishnava Dharma. When will that day come? Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Thakur ki. One night in a dream, Lord Jagannath told Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, quote, I didn't bring you to Puri to execute legal matters, but to establish Vaishnava Siddhanta. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur responded, your teachings have been significantly deprecated, and I lack the power to restore them. Much of my life has passed, and I am otherwise engaged. So please, send somebody from your personal staff so that I can start this movement. So this is the evidence that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is Gora Shakti. Because of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prayer. It's like they compare it to in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Advaita Acharya. He prayed to Krishna, please come and propagate Krishna consciousness. So therefore that was the advent for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Someone has to invite the Lord, then he comes, or his representatives. Even Srila Prabhupada was invited to America by that Gopal Agarwal. In Butler, Pennsylvania. You all know the story. Recently I saw a video, it's an interview with one lady. It's at New Vrindavan. Siki Mahiti made it. And she's my age, she's in her 70s, so. And she tells the story that, you know, Srila Prabhupada, when he was at Gopal Agarwal's house, Sally Agarwal, she, you know, could understand that Prabhupada wanted to, you know, preach. So she wanted to advertise Prabhupada's presence and his program, so she went to the local newspaper, the Butler Eagle, and they sent a photographer and a reporter, and you know, she gave all the information that this holy man from India has come and he's giving talks at our apartment. And they took a photograph of Prabhupada. You've seen that photograph? Prabhupada's holding Srimad Bhagavatam. It was taken in the YMCA where Prabhupada was staying, because their apartment was very small. They didn't have a spare room for Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was at the YMCA. You know, YMCA, it's like a hostel. You call it in India a hostel. Y, young, or how do you know? YM, men's. C, Christian Association. So this YMCA, they have all over America these hostels where you can stay very inexpensively. They give, you know, simple, just a bed and a chair, but very inexpensive. And they also have YWCAs, young women Christians, with hostel for women. They're separate. So Prabhupada was staying there. So this article came out in the Butler Eagle, and very near to Butler is a small town called Slippery Rock, and they have a college there. And one professor, he saw the article, and he felt compelled that he would invite Prabhupada to come to the college and he could speak at his class. And Prabhupada did that. His name was Professor Larson. And Prabhupada went to Slippery Rock College and he gave a talk. And this lady, she was a 20-year-old college student, and she was in that class. And she heard Prabhupada speak. And after the class, then Prabhupada left. He went, there was another Indian professor. His name was Sharma, I think Mohan Sharma. Prabhupada went to his house. You know, being Indian, he knew how to receive a sadhu, and Prabhupada only took, would only take milk and fruit, nothing cooked by anyone else. He prepared his own meals, otherwise he just would take milk and fruit. So, so this young girl, she was somehow moved by Prabhupada's presence and his lecture. So she wanted something more. She wanted to meet Prabhupada. So, you know, Prabhupada had left, and then she found out, of course, that Prabhupada was staying in Butler at Sali Agarwal's apartment. So she went there. It's just 17 miles away, very, very near. So she went to find Prabhupada. And she met Sali Agarwal, and Sali Agarwal said, well, Prabhupada is not here, the Swami is not here, he's at the YMCA. And this young girl, she said, well, I have to see him, I gotta talk with him, I gotta, you know. So I'm gonna go there. So she went to the YMCA. So when she went to enter the building, there was a sign, no women allowed. So she couldn't, she was with her boyfriend. So she asked her boyfriend, will you go inside and find the Swami, and somehow we can talk. But the boyfriend, he wasn't so interested. He said, no, I'm not going inside there. So that was the end of that. And she never had any contact again. And she was, you know, 20 years old. She graduated college. She became a teacher. She got married. She had kids. And but they don't explain it on the video, but somehow one of her daughters, who must be, I don't know, must be 50 years old now, I guess.
40.
Well, if she was 20, let's say she got married, she maybe had kids by 25. 40? So one of her daughters came in contact with the devotees from, I think, and then New Vrindavan, and she became a devotee. She's initiated. But the mother, she never got so much involved. But the daughter would bring her books. She has all Prabhupada's books in her house. So now she's coming to New Vrindavan. I think her daughter stays at New Vrindavan. So she's coming to see her daughter, and you can see how she still, although she didn't pursue anything, you can see how she was genuinely affected by that class that Prabhupada gave. And she's saying, you know, I have the books and now I have to read them. Now I have to do something. So this is really amazing. How the seed is planted, and it may take a very long time to fructify, but once the seed is planted, it will grow. So, in this dream, Lord Jagannath directed Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur to pray to the deity of Bimala Devi. Who's Bimala Devi?
The goddess they worship.
I think Shakti. Huh? In this way, just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared in response to the call of Sri Advaita Prabhu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was sent by Lord Chaitanya to fulfill the prayers of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Even before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's advent, his great-grandfather had predicted from his deathbed that an extraordinary sadhu would take birth in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, what was his name? What name did they give him?
Bimala Prasad.
Bimala Prasad. Because he prayed to Bimala Devi. There's a lot going on here. An astrologer was commissioned to calculate the natal chart. And he gave all the descriptions of an exalted personality, the physical description. And the astrologer said, I have done many horoscopes in my life, but have never before seen one replete with all the signs of an eminent personality. This child will become world famous as a teacher of the ultimate goal of life. So this boy was the 6th child in the family of 13 and the 4th of 8 sons. And 3rd by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's 2nd wife, Srimati Bhagavati Devi, and was given the name Bimala Prasad. And he was often called simply Bimala or Bimu or Binu. And in accordance with Bengali custom, his younger brothers addressed him as Nada, the 4th brother. Now, the next thing, when Bimala Prasad was 5 months old, at the time of Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. So if he appeared in in the month of December, was it February? So Rath Yatra is July, June, July.
4 months. 4 months.
4 months, no, 5, 6 months.
4 months.
6,
March, April, May.
huh? These scholars, you know. Bimala Prasad was 5 months old at the time of Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. His father's house was situated along the parade route on Grand Road, although the procession usually finishes in a few hours. This time, Lord Jagannath's cart stopped for 3 days outside the home of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You know, when the procession, sometimes the cart stops and they can't get it going again. Even they have hundreds of men pulling the ropes. It always happens like that. It's unexplainable why the cart stops and doesn't go. I mean, even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's described how Lord Chaitanya, he pushed with his head at the back of the cart to get the cart going. And even on our Rath Yatras, we used to have in San Francisco, the cart would just stop and they couldn't get it going. And Prabhupada he liked that very much. Because the cart moves by the will of Lord Jagannath. So it's like a rasa with Lord Jagannath and his devotees. So for 3 days, it stayed outside his house. And during that period, Bhaktivinoda Thakur arranged for continuous Sankirtan festival for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. Taking advantage of the auspicious opportunity, he directed his wife to bring her baby to the cart. Upon being placed at the lotus feet of Jagannath, the infant reached out his tiny arms to touch the feet of the deity. And Lord Jagannath immediately reciprocated by offering his own garland, which fell from his body right on the neck of the child and circled the baby. So that, how do you explain that? The garlands are there for 3 days, and just when they put the baby, it falls down right on the child. That same day, Bimala Prasad's Annaprasana, the function of eating grains for the first time, was conducted with the Jagannath Mahaprasad. Also performed was the traditional ceremony of placing the baby amid various objects, such as rice paddy, money, and scriptures, to see which one he will clasp as indicative of his future vocational propensity. The child's spontaneous grasping of Srimad Bhagavatam further intimated his devotional inclination. From the wonderful happening on Lord Jagannath's cart, Bhaktivinoda Thakur realized that his child was Lord Chaitanya's answer to his prayer for an empowered soul to help in his mission. He thus resolved to specially care for his son, and from the beginning trained him in pure devotional service. Bimala was not more than 4 years old when an incident occurred that foretold the character of his future Acharya. He took a mango before it had been offered to the family Govardhan Shila, for which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur rebuked him. They had a deity room in their house, and there was a mango in the deity room which had not been offered, but was, and a 4-year-old boy, you know, they like sweets and so on. So he went in and he took the mango and ate the mango. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he went to make the offering, and the mango was gone. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur told him, all food is to be enjoyed by the Lord. Nothing should be taken unless first offered to Krishna. You have committed a serious offense. The child became greatly contrite and immediately vowed to never again eat mangoes. In later years, after he had become an acknowledged spiritual leader, he was very often offered mangoes, but he always refused, saying, no, I cannot take. I am an offender. You know, what 4-year-old child takes a vow to never eat mango? Bimala Prasad was clearly not an ordinary boy. He had exceptional ability to remember and comprehend all kinds of topics. His voracious reading and his ability to exactly recall passages he had read only once were to earn him the epithet living encyclopedia. Even in his last days, he could reproduce verbatim any part of any book he had read 50 years back. His precocious genius was accompanied by a gravity and intensity of purpose uncommon at such tender age. I think as a child he memorized Bhagavad Gita immediately. All the verses he could recite. His precocious genius was accompanied by a gravity and intensity of purpose uncommon at such a tender age. Like Prahlad Maharaj and other great child devotees before him, Bimala Prasad did not waste time in frivolous sports or similar diversions. From the beginning, he was absorbed in fulfilling the mission of human life and spontaneously attracted to Krishna Bhakti. So, getting back to the purport, you know, when you're born in the family of devotees, you know, the child always imitates the father. So, Bhakti Thakur was worshipping the deity, so his son Bimala Prasad, he also did. And Prabhupada remarks in his own life how he was born into a family of pure devotees. His father was a pure devotee. His father was worshipping Radha Krishna deities in his house. So as a young boy, 5 or 6 years old, Prabhupada says, he asked his father, can I also have a deity to worship? I want to worship. And his father gave Prabhupada small Radha Krishna deities, and he was worshiping. And he was offering foodstuffs to the deity. He wouldn't eat anything without first offering it to his deity at 5, 6 years old. But then Prabhupada explains later on in life, especially when he was going to college, you know, he had bad association. But, you know, that Prabhupada went to Scottish Churches College. Prabhupada was educated in English, which is very unusual. And Scottish Churches College was all in English. And this is where Prabhupada first came in contact with Westerners, because all his professors were all British. Actually, not British, but Scottish. Professor Urquhart. And they were missionaries. So they were always propagating the Bible and Jesus. And, but Prabhupada, this is where he became actually trained up, you might say qualified, to get the order from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta that you're educated young men, you should preach Lord Chaitanya's movement in the Western countries in English. So anyway, in the college, Prabhupada kind of put aside his deities and wasn't doing that worship. But then he said, when he met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, that all became revived. And again, he took up his devotional practices. And another interesting thing, well, Prabhupada said, what was the main contribution of Bhakti Siddhanta to Prabhupada's life? What was the main contribution? Because Prabhupada was already in his house, they were chanting Hare Krishna, they were worshiping the deity, taking Krishna Prasadam. Well, what's the one thing they were not doing? No, they were preaching. Prabhupada had the Rath Yatra festival for all the friends. Huh?
Printing books. Printing books.
What'd you say? No.
Printing books.
Ah, there he is. Say it again.
He was not printing books.
Books. This is what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta added to what Prabhupada had already been trained to do in his life. Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, he translated, he took the Sanskrit books and translated them into Bengali and then published. And then he also made books in English. When Srila Bhakti Siddhanta devised a program for sending his preachers to England, to Europe, the first thing he did is that he wrote a book in English with the idea that they'll bring this book with them when they go to London and distribute. This is the beginning, really, of book distribution. So he wrote a book called Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Actually, it was written by his disciple, Professor Sanyal. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, you might say, managed the writing of the book. It's actually, you might say, a summary study of Chaitanya Bhagavat. It gives all the pastimes in Chaitanya Bhagavat of Lord Chaitanya. And then he wrote a very long introduction to the book. So practically, they say that the book was written by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. So then they published that book, and then when they went to London, they brought copies and they were distributing them. And then the sannyasi, they went from London, then they went to Berlin. This is, I think, 1933, 1934. And one of the copies of the book went into the hands of, he was a German student at the University of Berlin. He was he studied Sanskrit and Indian philosophy. But he didn't know anything about Vaishnavism. He was just doing mainly grammar studies, Sanskrit. His name was Ernst Schulz. And he read this book, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and he like became a devotee. And then he corresponded with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. he wrote to, the address was in the book, to Calcutta, and saying that this is the most wonderful book, or Lord Chaitanya, I never knew this. I want to come to India, I want to meet you. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta replied him that I have my preachers there in London, so why don't you go and associate with them and learn more and understand what it is, what devotional life is all about.